Hey, it's Thursday, it's 8 p.m. Sit back and relax. You're on the green couch.
What I don't get about Margaritaville is the salt shaker like the salt you put on the rim of a glass, or is Jimmy Buffett looking for is that code for his Coke?
No, I think it's just a salt shaker.
So he's just being totally literal
Yeah.
in a song where he's singing about living in a village made of margaritas.
Yeah, right.
Do you like Jimmy Buffett?
No. No,
Who likes Jimmy Buffett? Is it just people who live in the Panhandle?
I guess I'm not sure who is his fan base. Like I never really met a Jimmy Buffett fan.
You don't shop at Tommy Bahama, that's why.
I guess. I mean, I used to have a Tommy Bahama shirt.
When you got it, did it come with a Jimmy Buffett CD?
No, I went through this whole Burbank dad look, and yeah, right. I had my Tommy Bahama shirt, and I had like a hat, and those shorts that go past your knees, and they're like plaid. I had multiple plaid shorts.
Ooh, buddy.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
Was this the 90s?
No, it was the early 2000s.
The early aughts?
Yeah, yeah. So I had my Burbank dad look. So I had a Tommy Bahama, but yeah, I don't know who was a Jimmy Buffett fan. I don't think I've ever met a Jimmy Buffett fan. As far as someone's like, oh man, I'm going to the Buffett show tonight.
I'm going to the crab roast.
But he does. I mean, he's one of those guys that just he has his thing.
To play music despite making bad music.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, there's music for everybody. So, he does his shows and he makes a living. Nothing wrong with that, right? I mean, it's great. I think it's great. I think it's great that like someone like
I was just kind of hoping, I guess, that he was actually singing about yeah, I'm so drunk, I misplaced my cocaine and.
No, I think it's
Oh, speaking of cocaine, I went to this not a county fair. It was like a village fair, maybe. I don't know. Up in the mountains, there was.
So it was a county fair in the mountains.
No,
that involved
yeah,
cocaine.
I know, right? It was like a pumpkin patch. It was this place called Gilcrest Farms up around Santa Clarita somewhere, like some sort of like a mini ranch. Like they've got goats and pigs and a couple cows.
Yeah, it's like a petting zoo.
Yeah, it's like a petting zoo pumpkin patch thing, and they had this band planned. Maybe it was the same band last year. Maybe they're like employees there, and so they've got an inside track on the gig. But they're just playing things like Wasting Away in Margaritaville, and they played a version of the Clapton tune Cocaine, except every time they just wouldn't say the word.
They didn't replace it. They didn't replace it.
No,
they just
empty
omitted
bars.
It.
It was the weirdest act of self-censorship, and it just sort of like spoke to the, I don't know. It's like, oh yeah, so this is like when people retire from society. They like move out to these kinds of suburbs where there's like planned communities, and they sort of look back on their wild young days, but then just like choose to omit certain things in order to stay comfortable. And
right. Here's the thing about the omission. Like omitting the word cocaine, the person listening still knows what you're saying because it's one of those things. It's an iconic song. So by omitting it, you're not actually making people not go, I'm not going to say the word. You're actually making people think about the word more.
If you want to grow hair where you wouldn't have before, Rogaine.
Right. Yeah. So, it's like when somebody says like, F you, they're not doing themselves a favor by not saying fuck you. They're just using a different variation.
Yeah. This was a bit that Louis C.K. did.
Yeah. Right. So it's the same thing. It is the Louis C.K. bit. I guess I'll probably get sued by Louis C.K.
Son
But
of a bitch.
I mean, it's true that if it's like implied, using variations or omitting the phrase or the word doesn't make it more family friendly or whatever because it's implied.
Dad, why isn't he singing?
Yeah.
Well, because this song's about drugs, Tim.
Yeah. So I was wondering where the Margaritaville thing came from because you just kind of wandered in and asked.
I don't know. I've had Wasting Away in Margaritaville kind of just like drifting in and out of my head for a day or two.
Yeah. There's worse things to be drifting in and out of your head.
Yeah.
So
Like cocaine. No. Because I'm a dope. I stayed up all night filing my 2018 taxes. And so I went to sleep at 8:30 in the morning. I woke up at like 2 in the afternoon.
yeah, you're a mess right now.
I think I probably feel worse than I look. But I stopped at this place on Glendale, MUGSHOT. Lady there made me a Thai iced tea with espresso shot thrown in on top. This is great.
Is that a plug for Mugshot?
Yeah,
Why
why
not?
not? They're nice. It's a really cute little coffee shop, and it's kind of like in this weird spot on Glendale that'll probably be really hip in like 3 years.
So where is that in Glendale?
It's on Glendale Boulevard in
Oh.
Echo Park. It's in between Alvarado and the ramp for the 2.
All right. So that's our plug for
MUGSHOT.
Mugshot. Helping Bill stay alive. So yeah. So tomorrow, the 18th, our girl, Chris Kazin, who's our artist here at the record company.
Yo.
We recorded a song, Wonderland, and all the stuff is going to be coming out in 2020, and we'll talk about that in a second. But tomorrow, she's on the Stone and Steel radio show.
And that's stoneandsteelradioshow.com.
Yeah, stoneandsteelradioshow.com.
.com.
So, I gave them a little pre-release so they could feature it on their show tomorrow. So that's tomorrow. So if you go to our Instagram at ArtSchool Records,
Mm-hmm.
there's a post. It will give you the link. And if
Is there a post? Yeah.
there is a post,
Is there a post ever?
yeah, there is a post. And if you go to at Tully Dio, and that's at Tully_Dio
On the gram.
on the gram. So that's what I wanted to kind of talk about because you had given me a link to that podcast.
Oh, the Switched On Pop, the Vox one.
Yeah, so you gave me a link to the Switched On Pop. It was interesting. What they were talking about was really going on the long journey, building up your songs and kind of going long with it, as opposed to doing what's happening now is just dripping out
Track after
track after track after track, just to put out content. I'm kind of on board.
Irregardless of the quality of the song. I mean, it would help if the songs are all great, but it's just kind of like whenever the next one is even remotely ready, just put it up.
Right. I'm kind of in the long form camp, working on your album or your record, and you're really just kind of focusing on that and getting it all done. And then you can release from that, as opposed to going from single to single to single to single. Because I know the Popcast guys were talking about how the album isn't a thing anymore.
Yeah.
But I think it's the opposite way around. I think the album is a thing. I think that if artists kind of go back to looking at their songs in an album form and really focusing on a full story, whether it's 10 or 12 songs, and then from there releasing onto Spotify and all the other ways around, they'll get a longer lifespan out of their band. Because of the drip theory, every time you're just kind of releasing a single, you're just creating and you're creating and creating. Inevitably, you run out of steam.
The main purveyors of that method, it comes primarily out of like hip hop mixtapes and stuff like that, where it's just kind of like, this isn't really album quality, but it's like a batch of songs, so we'll like throw it out there for free. It won't be an album release, but it's a mixtape, so it's there. It's download the Drought Is Over 3 or something. Lil Wayne wasn't making his beats.
Right.
So when you partition, it becomes like an assembly line. So you can create content a lot faster. If all I had to do to put out an album was write the bass parts, yeah, it would be really easy. If somebody met me there with the rest of the song already done, that's what MCs and rappers are doing. It's like somebody shows up. It's like, here are all these beats, pick the ones you want, and then you just rap on them or sing or, just like whatever intermediary between those two poles is. And there's a mechanical way in which this is easier to do in certain genres. And because of the preeminence of new pop and or pop 2.0 and hip hop, and sort of it makes that model seem weightier. So it's not a theory. It's like it's an act that's happening actively, but it maybe looks disproportionate, or the dominant genre disproportionately favors that model. And so it's just sort of bleeding onto everything, even when that is not a necessarily practical model.
Right. I guess I should clarify that I am talking about like a band.
Yeah, you're talking about a band. So that's my point, is that like it's not as easy. Drake doesn't have to collaborate.
Right. And here's the thing. Okay. I'm glad you mentioned Drake, because, a lot of bands, and I'm primarily talking about bands, are putting out stuff onto Spotify. And I know several independent artists that are doing that. They go in the studio, they record their single, they put it out on Spotify, they, try to promote it, they go back, they do the same thing, rinse and repeat. 99% of all Spotify royalties go to the top 10% of the artists. The top of the top, it's like Drake and those guys. The other 90% are fighting for 1% of the streaming royalties. So my point is, if you're releasing to Spotify to create content and you're not going to get anything from it, I mean, there's going to be those bands that do release and it blows up, and that's great. But the top 99% of all royalties is going to the top 10% of the artists, because it goes by streams. And those top 10 artists get the most streams. So the people are listening to those artists the most. So if you can't break into that as a band, as a new band, releasing a single to Spotify, if that's your goal, if you're just going to go single, we're just going to keep releasing to Spotify, hoping one of them hits, it's kind of a fool's errand. So, but if you concentrate, if you focus on your album, you can then create a story, and you can actually create a little bit more buzz if you're continually working on your album. Then when your album is done, sure, go ahead and release onto Spotify. But as opposed to releasing 10 singles and chasing that and hoping every time your single is as good as the last one, you'll have a complete story that you can tell over a period of time by releasing. And you can use the album. Let's say you have an album with 12 songs on it. You can release a song every month and get a year out of that album. Get a full year of just releasing a song every month, doing a release party or whatever, and really promoting that. And you will get that a whole year. And during that year, you could be writing your next album. And that will also give you time to, as an artist, to decompress and think about and really kind of grow, because you've gone from, I'm going to tell this one story and let the world hear it. And while they're listening to it, you're going to come up with another story.
Can I ask you in what way this is different from the traditional record company model as it was known in the latter half of the 20th century?
It's a little different because the record companies would inflate that. They would pay for the studio time. And then there's costs that they would charge for the album artwork. They would charge them for everything. In the new model, all that stuff is gone. All those things in those bands that were signing all the way up until we went digital, they were paying for that. They were paying for every little piece of it. They were paying for, if they had a release party, the record company would foot the bill and throw an elaborate party and go to the band, oh, now you owe us this money for the release party. We'll take that out of your sales. So, instead of flushing the entire concept of what the old school record company used to do, there are still some good things that will help an artist continue on. They'll help an artist grow. And that's one of the things, is like my theory anyways, is that if an artist focuses on the album, they'll get a little bit more longevity. Because if you're just continually writing and trying to promote and writing and promote and writing and promote, inevitably you're just going to run out of steam. Because you're just in this cycle of trying to, like, I'm going to get my thing out and I'm going to promote it. I'm going to get my thing out. I'm going to promote it. And you never have a chance as an artist to just kind of like tell your story, let everybody hear it, and then work on your next story while they're listening to your first story. Our guest tonight, Terabyte, had mentioned that was one of the pieces of advice she got, was to take her time. And that's all I'm advocating. I am advocating for new artists to take your time, not to chase the drip. Really focus on your art, because the drip's always going to be there, and it's just a question of like, do you want to be part of that drip, or do you want to start controlling the flow of that drip? And you can do that. And that's just my point. So tonight's guest, Terabyte.
Very nice.
Very nice.
It was cool. I didn't realize when the show is getting booked, there's different factors that kind of lead to that. Like if they're just like an interesting group or something that one of us brings up to the booker. But it's like Tara just sort of like traveled in the same circles in Digispace as some of the other groups that we've been in talks with. And I think that's what got her the attention of the show. And then it turns out she comes in and she's like, oh yeah, Ever So Android, I know them. We're both from Seattle. I thought that was really cool. I was in Stories the other morning, and I guess Hope from Ever So Android had been checking out the feed and was like, oh, they got the Terabyte episode coming up. I know her. I should tell Bill. Me and my famous cat Magellan were in Stories the other morning, and Hope was telling us about how she knows Tara. It's kind of small world.
You didn't bring Lester?
I have to figure out what's the matter with the fish tank.
Oh.
There's some sort of algae bloom going on, and so Lester looks like Chewbacca. When he sheds, he looks so fresh and clean, and after a while, he kind of gets these algae dreads that grow on him that the shrimp used to clean off of him, but then he ate the shrimp.
So Lester ate his way into a crisis. We have a Lester crisis because he was...
Maybe Goldie ate them.
Yeah, somebody ate. So we do have a Lester
Pleco
crisis.
didn't eat them, but Goldie is enormous and Lester is omnivorous, so...
Yeah.
One of the two of them did it.
All right, so we're going to listen to a track of Terabytes, or just a piece of a track, right?
Yeah. We'll listen to a little bit of her music and then jump right into the conversation with Terabyte. Oh, and I should mention that she's playing a show at the Redwood Bar and Grill in DTLA. That's on 2nd Street. It's the one that looks like a pirate ship on the inside, or as I like to say, it just looks like Hyannis. She is playing there on Wednesday the 23rd.
There ain't no time to think about it. No, no.
So when you walked in, you noticed the one thing in the room that pretty much nobody ever really notices: the VR goggles that are sitting on the on the mannequin. And you said, "Ask me about your goal."
My big goal in life. So I really want to, and I'm sure that this is like lots of other people are probably on this too. But I want to make. I'm not even a gamer. Like I never got into gaming and stuff. But I want to make a video game that has some kind of objective, like you go and collect things or something, and then it's just like this beautiful world. I would like to help design it
in VR.
In VR, completely. And there's a soundtrack to it, and I want to write the soundtrack, obviously, and an album, and it's interactive, and I'm sure there's lots of other people doing that, but that's my goal in life. I don't know where I'm going to get the resources and all that, but it's going to happen because I have to do it before I die.
Well, if it's any consolation,
that's my
biggest
thing. Yeah.
There are people doing everything. Everything is being done by somebody. So you can do it. You just got to
Yeah.
do your thing. It's
Yeah.
like,
It's going to be awesome.
like somebody's out there writing a song right now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's not going to stop you from writing a song.
Oh, heck no. Yeah.
Right. So your dream of having a video game in VR where you write all the music, even though somebody may be thinking about the same thing right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whatever.
Well, I think that music and gaming are going to kind of be like this in the future. I mean, they already are.
Yeah.
But it's gonna be an even closer tie. Like I really do think that just an album almost isn't gonna be just an album and just a music video or whatever. It almost isn't gonna be like enough anymore. Like it's gonna be like a full experience, and that's what I really, really want, is to somehow like awaken the mood of the music through VR, just being fully immersed in it. But of course, it has to be very specific and particular to like what I was envisioning as I wrote the music. Yeah.
And that would be your primary approach to it, is because you're a musician.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be the main approach. And I don't think that the game aspect of it isn't something that I can really... I don't know. I feel like it would definitely need to be a team effort. Like I want to collaborate with somebody who designs video games.
Cool.
I would love to keep the violence minimal, although I do like the darker side of things. I don't want to traumatize anybody with it, but it would be cool to get a little intense here and there with it, and almost have like maybe a little bit of a plot line, because it'll keep it interesting, definitely.
So almost like a rock opera in VR.
Yeah, in VR, exactly. Yes.
Somebody call Meatloaf's Ghost.
Yes.
Consider me like customer number one.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
I will
cool.
buy your rock opera on the dark side
Yes.
in VR.
In VR. Yes.
I will hand you money right now.
Give me all your money. That's it, yes. I also want to make a music video that is like, so Kinder eggs, like kids just sit and watch people unwrap Kinder eggs all day, which I also don't understand, but there's something satisfying about it. Maybe it's like an AMSR type of deal where it's just like, it gives you chills or something. I don't know. I don't know what those kids are thinking when they're watching people unwrap Kinder eggs, but it would be really cool, I think, to kind of play off of that somehow and make at least a music video about that. It's just like
Awesome.
a combination of AMSR stuff, because like I recently got into that and it's actually really nice. It's really pleasant.
So you watch people unwrap stuff?
You know what a Kinder egg is?
I have no idea, dude.
It's a little German chocolate ball that it's like but you crack it open and there's like a Happy Meal toy inside, like a super tiny Happy Meal toy inside, but it's like a chocolate ball.
Okay.
Like Kinder egg, because it's German, means like child egg.
Yeah, I understand what.
Yeah.
Right?
But no, yeah. So you watch people unwrap these things?
I've actually never personally watched these videos. I mean, I guess I've taken a gander just because I've read a few articles about like this epidemic that's sweeping young children, or like they're just watching these videos, and then sometimes there's like super traumatizing things mixed in, and parents aren't like paying attention to it. They're like, I don't know what the hell my parents. I just handed them the iPad.
He was crying.
Right, but
I gave him the screen.
I gave him the screen, and it calmed him down. Like that.
But that's just childhood. Everybody's like freaking out about trauma. He saw traumatizing stuff because I handed him like it's the iPad's fault or the internet's fault.
So true.
Look, I discovered porno by going to the woods behind my house, and somebody had left the magazines laying on the ground.
You're gonna find it.
You're gonna find
It's
it.
going to
There's
happen.
no difference than like
because
kids don't go out; they just click on something. It's kind of that. It's kind of like a rite of passage for like a young male. You're going to find porno. It's just going to happen.
Or in the case of screen time now, it's gonna find you.
It's gonna find you. Yeah. There's no way to shield your children.
That's
from
what she's
those
talking
things,
about.
Yeah.
Is that so YouTube made an app which basically boils down all of its content for children into a single source, except there's people who are like specifically creating maliciously subversive content where it's like,
Yes.
oh, it's Paw Patrol. We're going to go help somebody. And then we get into the car and they drive and then the car hits a brick wall and they all die.
Yeah, I mean, it's a monster. The internet is a total monster. And I don't know why I'm like sort of sadistic sometimes, but it's kind of funny to watch it just kind of like get out of control a little bit. Like, I don't know, when things get out of control, or like, not to change subjects super quickly, but
Please do.
like climate change. I kind of like when you see the evidence of it happening right in front of your fucking face. And sorry to cuss, you can bleep it out.
No,
but,
yeah, no. You
Party
can,
on, Wayne.
You can
but
say whatever you want.
seriously, but I hate that I like it, but I like when you can see it, because it's like, you can't deny it anymore. Like, it's happening,
Right.
and it's powerful. I mean, nature is my go-to inspiration for everything. I grew up kind of by Glacier National Park,
Cool.
which is gorgeous. I was really fortunate to have, an excellent family that raised me super outdoorsy, like hunting, fishing, just hiking miles and miles, carrying big packs, rafting, swimming in lakes, picking up frogs, catching butterflies. Like, so I feel super, super fortunate to have had that upbringing.
Right.
Sure.
I mean, so environmental studies kind of makes sense
Yes, yeah. My dad is a wildlife conservationist, and so is my brother. Like, we all went to school in that field, and so it just made sense for us, because we're like, our dad does that, like, and we grew up just like really, really like caring about that stuff. So.
So when did you go to the dark side, dye your hair purple, and put on a dog collar?
I know, right? All my relatives are asking me the same question. I just went to a family reunion this summer, and they were like, so talk about your new look.
Is it really a new look, though? Is it like, or is it something that you just kind of like?
I think it's always been like, anybody who knows me, like especially starting in high school, it's not a surprise at all. I think I'm kind of a late bloomer for sure. I feel like it sounds super cliche probably, but like never really fit in, or was always in a situation where I was like, how did I get here? Like, what?
Right, but you're
I don't know.
okay, because LA is a place where everybody that doesn't know where to fit in
Yeah.
fits in. It's kind of like the land of misfit toys, where people
Yes.
that don't feel like they,
Exactly.
you know,
yes.
like here you can just, you have purple hair and a dog collar. Like, all
Yeah.
right, you want a job?
Yeah.
In Montana, you're like,
Exactly.
what's up with her? She's
Yes.
really, she's way out there. But here it's
Totally.
like, okay, well, you start Monday.
Yeah. Yeah, where I'm not, so like part of me kind of likes not fitting in or being like out of my element. I actually quite enjoy that as well. But here, there is something for everybody in this town. And by the third time I came to visit, because I was living up in the Bay Area in Santa Cruz, I lived in Santa Cruz for a bit, and then Oakland, I realized, like, oh no, LA's got something for everybody. Like, literally, you will, if you're looking for something, you will find it.
So what was the population of your town that you grew up in? Did you know that? Like, anything
When
roughly?
I was first born, it was like 20 to 30,000, I think. I might be totally wrong. But I know that it doubled by the time I left high school. The population doubled. I think at this point it's 50 to 60,000. It's actually growing kind of
What
rapidly.
got you to leave in the first place? You went from there straight to the Bay?
So I went to college in Tacoma, Washington, at a private university called Pacific Lutheran University. And I was really involved in choir and stuff like that, and theater. I was like a big choir and theater nerd. And I wanted to get the hell out of Montana, because I was just like, there's so much more out there. And I was like listening to all this like swanky lounge and chill music, and was like, I need to go to the city and like see more things, obviously. So I decided the closest metropolitan area was the Seattle, Tacoma area. And my best friend was at the time was also going to school there. So it was like easy. And I went there and graduated with the environmental studies and English writing degree. And my best friend had also moved back, and we decided to make music together. I've been producing music on a little Roland XP50 for a long time. And so we started a project together, the two of us. And we became big fish in a small pond. And it was really cool to watch because a lot of younger kids, like high schoolers and stuff, were like coming to our shows. And then it kind of brought this new light to my hometown where I was like seeing all these really cool progressive tiny artist pockets just kind of like popping up and like raves and things like that. And then I realized Montana is actually really dope. Like it's beautiful. And then there's also just a lot of people that are doing really cool things.
What was the name of that group? Is there anywhere that somebody could hear that?
So we were called Firefly initially.
It's a good name.
Yeah. And then my friend and I were sort of having like issues with like ego struggles and just weird shit. And I was like a little worried that he was going to like jump ship on me kind of. And I had spent so much time producing these songs.
What kind of tunes were they?
They were electropop. Yeah,
Okay.
It was definitely like indie pop. The album that we released is called Firefly. We ended up changing the name to Terabyte and the Battery Eaters, which mostly happened because of how much time I had personally invested in producing the songs. And I didn't want to, I was like, okay, he co-produced on them. And then I ended up writing and producing pretty much the bulk of the music, which is something that a lot of people didn't really know because I wasn't behind a computer, and that was just kind of the paradigm. You have like the dude producer and the female singer. That was kind of that was really big back in the day. And I think there was this sense of like, for me personally, it was like I wanted recognition for being a female producer. And I was worried because it seemed like he wanted to kind of quit a lot. And I was like, well, I want to move forward with it. So I'm going to just have this name. Terabyte.
It's like something staggering, like only 3% of women are producers.
Yeah. I think, and I'm thrilled to see, especially in this town, how many female producers I come in contact with. Like, it's wonderful. I really love to see, I'm used to going to like a producer social or something and being the only woman in the room that produces, which sometimes is like fun. And other times it's you get like mansplained to a lot and stuff like that.
Let me explain mansplaining to you real quick.
Thanks. Thank you. Perfect timing.
That's how I
Yeah.
found you for the show was you sort of traffic in some of the same space as other people that we've been in contact with through the record label, like Violent Vicky or Ever So Android.
Yes, I love them. They're
so cool.
Seattle folks. Yeah, they're really cool, and they're great. Like I love seeing them play live. So it's been easy kind of moving down here just because like there's been a lot of mutual friends and.
But Raz, isn't that what you're always
great.
saying? Against when it's going easy, you're doing something right.
Yeah. I have a whole philosophy.
Be doing something right.
I have a whole like I tell Bill like I have like total bullshit philosophies that like hit my head and I just tell Bill. But if you feel like you're swimming upstream, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
If you're just kind of going with it and things are easy,
Yeah.
you're doing something right.
It's great. One of the best pieces of advice and thank you for that. If it's nice to hear these little words of wisdom. One of the best pieces of advice that anybody gave me was just take your time. And I'm like, awesome. I really feel like doing that right now. Like, because it has been easy. Like I've already done a lot, I feel like, and I don't feel like I need to push myself any, pushing yourself is always good, but I don't want to be too like
right. But if
forceful with it, I guess.
If you're constantly running into doors that are closing and people saying, oh, you feel like you're just kind of running into roadblocks all the way.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a universal.
Totally.
Yeah.
The universe is like, just
Yeah, I did one
try something
semester
else.
in college, and I was sitting in the student lounge, and it had giant windows on each side, and I just sat there and I watched this moth just continually pound into the window because it could see the other side, right? And I just
Poor
sat, and I just
baby.
yeah, I know, and I just
Yeah.
watched him, and all I had to do was like take a turn up and go around. The building wasn't that tall, or even just go around. But he decided that he was just going to try to plow through what he saw to the other side, and he eventually died. Like I watched the moth die,
Aw.
but yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
but it made me realize
Yep.
that
You
that's me, right?
keep trying the same thing.
Right, because to him, he
not
was like,
working
"Well,
out."
this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm a moth. I'm supposed
Yeah.
to go this way."
Right.
But there was something constantly in his way, and
Yeah.
he just said, "Well, I'll just muscle through." And
I'm just gonna muscle through.
some people some people do that.
Yeah.
Some people are able to muscle through, but it's it's a bell curve. It's the lottery. Everybody
Yeah.
plays, but there's a tiny fraction that win.
Yeah.
So
It's very true. Yeah.
just remember, bad advice is still advice.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Absolutely.
Did you grow up musical, or did you kind
Yeah.
of? Because you said you were in theater.
Yes.
So I mean, you kind of look like a theater geek.
Totally. 100%. Yeah, I grew up really musical. I took piano lessons, which didn't really stick. Unfortunately, I'm terrible with music theory, which is really sad. I wish I wasn't. But I grew up taking piano lessons and vocal lessons. I'm classically trained both with show tunes and with classical. Like I love singing opera. I like breaking that out once in a while. I'm a little rusty, but it's fun. And then show tunes are really fun too. And I don't know, from as young as I can remember, I was just really affected by music, deeply affected. My very first memory was my mom singing Material Girl by Madonna, into her broom, super typical, so beautiful. My mom just being in awe of my mom. She had this long, gorgeous hair. Her hair was all the way down to mid back. And she was just singing Madonna. And
How old were you? How old were you when you saw that?
I have no idea. I was under the age of 5 for sure. I used to just go into my room for hours and just record myself on tapes, singing, making up songs, making up plays, just entertain myself for hours by myself. I still do that. I love spending time by myself, a lot.
All right.
If we go back to Ever So Android, Hope was talking about that, about when she's performing, if she's bored, then the audience is bored.
Yes.
So when
Yeah.
you are performing, even if you're performing for yourself, that's part of the thing, is you have to be I'm performing for myself, and I have
Yeah.
to keep myself interested.
Yes.
And that will kind of go forward.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, if everything else falls through, it's I become proud of myself for all of the music that I've generated over the years. As a producer or whatever, that time that I get by myself where I just get to mess around on my computer and with my synths and stuff like that is just invaluable. And I feel so completely grateful for it, because there's so many people in the world that will never have the chance to be able to just have their own personal space and the money to be able to afford the things to make that music. And there's tons of people that are dreamers in the world that will never get the chance to actually even create something, that is in their head. I always feel a sense of extreme gratitude.
And you produce your own music, obviously.
Yeah.
Is your goal to produce for other people?
I would love to. Absolutely. Yes.
Right. Who do you see yourself wanting to produce for? If you had somebody that
I don't know. I don't have anybody in mind in particular, but definitely I would want to help people who are ambitious enough to want to get a vision out in their head. I would want to work with them to get their vision out. And obviously, I don't know, a band or something, and like definitely a band I would like to work with, because I haven't really done a lot of like real instrument mixing before until recently. I just started getting into it with my own stuff, like recording live instrumentations and then mixing that in.
Your whole thing seems to be super tech-centric. Like you're talking about, you're only now dealing with guitars and, you know, or just like physical instruments beyond synthesizers. And
I think that's mostly because of my like tendency to be hermetic and introverted.
All right. I mean, the dude from Boston recorded like all of those instruments himself.
Boston's a little bit, it's probably like your dad's time.
Totally.
So,
I think I have it on vinyl actually.
Yeah.
She's talking about the first record.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. There's other Boston albums, but but the quintessential Boston record, he was a MIT nerd.
What? Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So he was
like, there's a lot of math that went into that record.
That's incredible.
And he did it all himself. He did it in a basement in Waltham, Massachusetts. And it was, you know, this is early computer science, like 76 maybe. So yeah, but he was an MIT guy, and
that's incredible. I had no idea. That gives me a whole new appreciation for it.
Yeah,
more than a feeling.
More than a feeling.
Yeah, like the singer sang on that, but all of that stuff was done in a little basement. It was all him, and he was producing it all himself. He heard the whole thing start to finish. There you go. So you have something in common. It's really kind of funny because that's, you know, it's like what, 40, 30 something years ago. But it has that same.
I absolutely love being compared to Boston, by the way. I think that's incredible.
Most people with good taste do.
I love it. Makes me so happy. I was just going to say, because we're talking about all this classic rock, my parents were so kind as to give me their vinyl collection that I grew up listening to, and that I would also say is one of the biggest influences musically ever. And Led Zeppelin was like at the top of the list.
I find it kind of funny that you're talking about like Whole Lot of Love as being like your touchstone, or, you know, like that kind of stuff, because the music you make, I'm hearing, you know, like throwback, like Detroit house music and like Ital disco, you know, and dubstep and just like classic dub music and 90s pop and like proto, you know, like 80s pop. Like I'm hearing touches of like I don't know, like Paula Abdul or Madonna and stuff like that, but also Deadmau5. Like, it's just kind of like if it's had a synthesizer in it for the last 30 years, it sounds like you've had your ear to that record at one point or another and have digested it.
Yes. So, like, I started to get really into electronic music, I think, when I was about 12 or 13. NSYNC was actually huge for me. I was crazy about Justin Timberlake and crazy about their music, like on a spiritual level, like, you know, tween girl, of course. And then really got into that whole pop thing. So like Britney, I was in love with Britney and Christina Aguilera, of course. And then I got a little bit cooler when I met my super goth friend when I turned 13, 14, and she kind of knocked that. She was like, nah, that's not cool. And I was like, yeah, okay, yeah, it's not cool. So then she introduced Depeche Mode and Pet Shop Boys and Duran Duran, and people used to make fun of me and writing poetry on my Chuck Taylors. And then that's when I really started being like, oh, I'm Tara. This is like, that's when I started coming into this whole thing. And then I met this friend who I've brought up several times, and he introduced this whole world of like European electronic music, things that I had in my head that I didn't even think existed. And I was like, I'm going to make that music.
So that's when I mean, were you playing piano or anything ahead of that? Okay, so you had a keyboard knowledge.
Yes.
And then you just like, but I need my keyboard to make bleep bloops and lasers.
Yes. Yeah.
In order for me to like do this Kraftwerk record.
Yeah. So like I the first time I ever got a keyboard was when I was 14, and I wanted to make a band. I saw my other friend make a band and I was jealous. Ooh, I was like, she has a band? How did that happen? Okay. I just remember I was
listeners at home, Tara just made a very sassy hand gesture.
I was like, how did she do that? And I'm not doing that. So I ended up just getting a keyboard for Christmas and making my own music, which later I was hoping was going to be turned into like a full band thing. Like, we're going to have these other band people playing this. And that was the beginning of me being a producer. It was like accidental, like I just want to get my ideas out and compose these songs. And then just over time, I just kind of honed the craft in to the point where I was just producing like full songs. And then I would say over the last 3 years, once I finally switched to like DAWs, like Ableton and Logic Pro, the last 3 years have been the first time in my life where people have noticed the production, actually. So it's taken me a really long time to get good at it. But I'm finally to the point now where I'm just like, yeah, like this is what I love Like I love singing and I love writing songs a lot. But producing is like so satisfying to me.
Well, right. No,
Love
the DAW has become its own separate instrument.
Yeah, it has, for sure.
You know, even when
It's so powerful.
we were talking to Drew from Everstar Android, you know, he finally kind of came around to that going, oh yeah, no, this is more than just button pushing. Now that it's become so much, it's accessible.
Yes.
You do learn to become a producer.
Yeah.
And part of that learning process is, of course, anything you do in the very beginning, you're going to suck at.
Yes. Maybe for longer than you would like, but
Right,
you'll get there. By God.
You're learning a new instrument.
Yes.
Basically.
Yeah.
So you spend all this time, you learn how to play your main instrument, like with the piano and all that type of stuff. And then you finally get better and better and better until you can do like a bunch of stuff on your piano. And you go, yeah, now I'm going to put this into a DAW and then I'm going to work it out. And you're like, why does this sound terrible?
Yeah.
And it's because you're learning a new instrument completely.
Yeah. And it changes from DAW to DAW. Like being an independent artist as well, it's like trying to figure out how to get good at not just like the production part and like making the music sound up to par, like, which for me has been like a struggle for a long time. It's like I want to hear it the same way that I hear a commercial track, you know, where you're just like, all right, can we do this by ourselves without dropping a bunch of money in a studio, which is essentially where like the independent kind of producer, that's what we do now. We just record in our own studios. But then there's the whole other side of it where it's like, okay, I work by myself here. I would love for this to take hold. I mean, the main purpose is like, I just want the music to be as good as possible. Number one, like I just want it to sound good. Number two, I want as many people to hear it as possible.
So, Tara, you've got one record, a single, and then the single leads into an EP. You've got another thing coming out.
Yes.
So, I wonder if you can account for this. And if you wouldn't mind just telling the audience at home who are listening and not reading along with you what it is that you're looking at. Deaths
caused by exposure to excessive heat of man-made origin. Musical works, copyrighted, and there's a correlation here.
So, with the release of your new album,
Yeah.
are you prepared to take responsibility for those people you are going to kill through exposure to man-made heat?
I cannot wait.
This kind of
I know.
goes
Sadistic
right
side
hand
of
in
me.
hand with you wanting to like watch that last polar bear float away on the little iceberg.
I mean, it makes me really sad about polar bears, though.
So what is the correlation?
So it's the number of musical works that were copyrighted, which correlates almost exactly to deaths caused by exposure to excessive heat of man-made origin.
When's your next album coming out?
I love that I talked about how fire was a good theme in it. So the next album, I wish I could give you a drop date for it, but currently I have passed it along to this small German record label. They're called Quentaro. It's Quentaro. They're based in Frankfurt, Germany. And it was just a random like SoundCloud like, hey, Frankfurt thing. and they were like, hey, we're going to release and we're going to do techno remixes. And it's, my album is not, I wouldn't call it techno. I think like people that didn't understand the different genres of electronic music would probably call it techno. But they're going to do a bunch of remixes of it, whatnot. They're mastering it right now, as far as I know. They need about 3 months, like most things, to kind of like get it out there. I'm hoping to get some kind of publicity or something, you know, some kind of like something happening overseas. It'll mostly be overseas, which is really cool and exciting to me. So I'm hoping that it will be released at latest, like the beginning of 2020.
I'll keep an eye on the
Keep an
the
eye
data
on the
sets.
correlation here, because
If
I have
Raz
a
burns
feeling,
to death
Yeah.
from like a microwave
Yeah.
or like an iron,
Yeah, there's
on
there's some hidden messages there, and there's a song called "Go Together" that's just talking about how like we're all gonna die together. So it's, you know, it's cool. Like,
and is this like kind of like an
super
extrapolation? You've got this. You know, you've got one record. It was like a full length that came out. Looks like Valentine's. No. Valentine's Day was the most
That
recent
was an
one.
EP, yeah.
And
yeah,
then there's
called
one
Yes.
from 2016 that's a full
Yes.
length, and that's like
Yes.
a super. That reads as like super peak trop house.
Yes, it's absolutely Trop House. Thank you for picking up on those little, and you know, sometimes like, sometimes I'll like go, it's like, I want to make something that's like this, or I want, at least the flavor and the vibe of certain things to kind of like come through. And actually, I feel like it's called Melty Pop, and Melty Pop is basically just me kind of like making a genre that's like very pop, but it's kind of like not pop as you know it, kind of. So it's like melting. So I guess that's the whole like definition of it, because it's just kind of like melding all these different, like throwing all these different like styles in there and stuff. I was definitely going for a very like California-esque, specifically LA-esque vibe. Like,
But this is when you were living in the Bay Area?
I was living in the Bay, but and I'd only been to LA once at that point, I think, when I started making that album. But I mean, palm trees. I felt like the vibes were huge, because it was like, oh man, I live in California now. You know, like I don't live in Montana. I don't live anywhere else. I live in California. And so those vibes were coming through big time, like the ocean, and just like the being by the ocean, being like, I don't know, just that whole vibe, I guess.
So you had that album, and then you went to the EP, and they sound like they're coming from the same artist, but they do have distinct separate sounds.
Yeah. And I think, honestly, part of it, too, was that I dropped a too large sum of money to record vocals through like a $20,000 worth of like a signal path at a world-class recording facility in Santa Cruz. I also took like a production class there because I just wanted to get better at Ableton, because I opened up Ableton and I was like, okay, this does not make sense to me. So I just ended up taking a class.
You're talking about for the EP?
For the EP,
which is called Yes?
Sorry, for the full-length Melty Pop. That's when I had taken that beat production class and recorded the vocals at this studio, was for Melty Pop. So the vocals, in my opinion, come through a lot clearer because I'm obviously singing through a much more quality signal path. Whereas Yes was recorded, 2 of the songs were recorded in my friend's home studio, and 2 of them were recorded in my home studio. So, and then I had my friend mix all of the tracks down. So, like, after I mixed them. Mm-hmm. So, like, Melty Pop was completely mixed by me and then mastered by somebody else. And then Yes was mixed by me initially and then a secondary mix.
And it does have a more bifurcated sound to it. I mean, so I'm not, Raz is really the engineering brain. Mm-hmm. My understanding tends to be kind of like a compositional standpoint, and I can hear that there's definitely, you're kind of, it's a hard thing because it's a much smaller sample set, but you seem to be jumping through a couple of different sounds in a less bonded way.
Yes.
I'm wondering
absolutely.
if the new record, what's the new record going to be called?
I'm not sure yet. I don't know.
Okay.
I haven't gone over it with the label if they want me to title it, or like I just want to see kind of like what they, and especially because it's only 3 songs and the same thing kind of happens.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, the same thing happens with that where it's like they're kind of all over the place.
That's
like,
what I was going to ask you.
Yeah, there's not. I tried, especially with because I had another mix engineer do this one. I tried to kind of have a cohesive sound with all of them because one of the tracks is like 10 years old, and I was like, but can we like somehow make it sound like? And so I did my best on my end with the mixing, but I'm like too self-conscious to do all the mixing on my own. Like, I feel like it's really important to pass it along to somebody else. Be like, I need like another ear, whatever. But yeah, those ones are kind of all over the place. And I feel like the end of the EP, yes. So like the very first song is called Cold Shoulder. And I feel like that was like the last sort of like breath of melty pop. Super, super poppy, super bubblegum, super...
Yeah, it's like a house track.
Exactly, yeah. And I was like, okay, that's the last breath of melty pop era. Now with Hackaboy and what's the next one? Nobody Else, which is my personal favorite, and then Wreck You. Yeah. Those 3 start getting into a little darker, heavier territory.
Is that the trajectory you feel like you're on?
That's the trajectory, yes. And so then with this next EP, it goes probably darker than I've been in years, but I still don't go all the way there. Because I'm just sort of dipping my toes. I've got some pretty dark ones that are kind of in queue, but I'm just, I don't want it to go too, I don't want to wreck anybody's mood too much. So then with this next EP, which is I want to release it in the fall or the winter because of the fact that it's like just a little darker. And it also, I feel weird sharing this, but at the same time, I think it's an important life thing. I have been in the middle of a divorce for like the last couple months. And a lot of the songs that I wrote, including Wreck You, especially Wreck You, was like at the precipice of like, this is falling apart kind of thing. And then these songs kind of like came out of that. And so, and then ironically, the last song on the EP was like when we were first falling in love. So it's to me, it means a lot. It's very, very personal. And it just kind of like brings it almost back around by putting that song last, which I used to perform with my good friend when we were Firefly, a lot. It kind of brings it back to that, and then to come back to Firefly, which you can't hear because I've taken it off the internet.
Okay.
Yes.
I was going to ask.
Yes. It's a solid album. I won't lie. It's very good. I feel.
Maybe
anyways.
It comes out on the anthology sometime.
So that's been the big thing is like, I want to release that really bad, but because I've gained all these new like mixing skills and stuff, I want to release it in a way that really showcases how good it is. And so now it's like, okay, now I know how to mix a little bit better, way better than I did back then. So my next big project is to bring that back with some live instrumentation, lots of heavy studio time, re-recording vocals. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Before we say goodbye,
Yes.
I'm going to try something new. Terabyte, I just wanted to thank you very much for stopping through and sitting down on the green couch.
Of course.
Here's
Thank you for
a
having me.
postcard I've addressed and posted, so you can write us from sometime in the future.
I would love to write.
And just drop that in any mailbox, and we'll report on it in a future show.
This is so wonderful. I love this. Thank you so much, you guys. Thank you for having me.
Terabyte, thank you very much for sitting down on the green couch. Oh,
yeah.
Apart from Instagram,
Yeah.
where can people find your music?
So Instagram, of course, is like the Terabyte, THEE, Terabyte, the way it's spelled. So aside from Instagram, you can find me. My handle is THEE, Terabyte, on Facebook, Bandcamp, and SoundCloud.
And have you got a website of your own as well?
And then I have a website, an official website that is www.terabytemusic.com.
Groovy.
And that is how you can find me.
Awesome. Well, once again, thank you so much. Thank you very much for coming in,
thank
and especially
you.
on such short notice. Very cool of you.
Yeah, well, I ain't got nothing better to do, so.
Grim.
That's not true. But no, this is pretty good. This is up on the list. So thank you guys so much.
On the Green Couch is a production of ArtSchool Records in conjunction with and recorded at Project 4 Studios in Burbank, California. The show is edited by Raz, with additional production support by Dixie Trussell. Please remember to subscribe, rate, and review us in Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. It all goes to helping other people find us. For more information, please visit our forever home on the web at artschoolrecords.com. I'm Bill Zunkin, and thanks for listening.